Okay, how are we doing, guys? Welcome to the show. So this is our third story as we work through the men of our world to be able to share stories of success and fight back to help encourage and inspire you to find your identity, who you are, and help you on your path. Peter Hartles, how's it going?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, good to see you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. How long have you been with us?
Just over 3 years. 2019 I started.
19, huh? That is like insane when you think about where that time has gone. I remember you joining.
I know.
Yeah, I remember you joining, and I think to myself, like, and I was just preparing in my head, and I was trying to think, is it 2 or 3 years? And I can't believe it. Pete, who is Pete Hartles? Who is Peter Hartles?
I am now a motivated, kind, caring, considerate chap who lives life to the full. Basically, I'm massive into my health. I enjoy my running. I've lived life as you know. I've done marathons, ultras, an ultra. I run regularly. Keep myself fit, which obviously leads into the other pillars and helps me with everything else in life, relationships, that type of thing.
Love that.
Wasn't the story in 2019, though, put it that way. So.
All right, well, let's get to 2019, Pete. So, first of all, so in 2019, where was your head at? Like, did you do our 5-day challenge?
Yes.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, why did you need to do the 5-day challenge? Like, what was going on in your life at the time?
I just, there'd been a lot of changes. So obviously I've become a dad in 2012. So that life of being like just married, no kids, and you have the kids and just you forget who you are and yourself. And I become so self-absorbed in my own pity that I'd forgot about myself. Basically, I did everything for everybody else. And that side of it would never change, but I just forgot about me. And sort of February 19 was just my head imploded, basically. I just lost sight of myself, really, and it led to just depression, basically. So I knew I had sort of OCD, so obsessive compulsive thoughts, and I wasn't engaging with anyone as I should have been. I was short-tempered. I didn't have much interest in anything. Quite selfish, really, in some respects. But I just had that depression had kicked in, and I couldn't get out of it. Before, when it happened, I was stressed and things. I could always find my way back, but this time I just couldn't get out of it. And I didn't know why. I couldn't put a finger on why. The problem was, I thought it was my work. It wasn't that. I thought when I was sort of talking to my friends and stuff, my best friend actually turned around and said to me, he said, "You've forgotten who you are," and that basically hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But it took a few months to get to that realization.
Pete, so like, obviously you're talking a lot about kind of, I think what you're talking about is feeling quite hollow. I think with having an outer shell without an inner shell, right? So giving so much to everybody else, kind of forming this hollow shell in terms of I'm forgetting myself and neglecting myself along the way, and then I'm struggling to still come to terms with that and know how to feel that. What made you feel like you were going into depression? Like what were the feelings? Like what was the mindset? What were you telling yourself?
I just wasn't good enough. I was just telling myself my self-confidence was gone, was shot. Self-belief.
Not good enough at what?
Just anything. I just didn't feel like I was good enough for my family, self. I just got to that stage where I was just thinking. I actually thought they'd be better off without me at one stage. But what kept me going was the fact that my wife and my kids were there, and that's what sort of that was the North Star that sort of kept me going, really. But is that lack of self-belief, that self-confidence, it just disappeared. I didn't do anything out of my comfort zone. It was just, go to work, come home, just that hamster wheel of life, basically.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yeah. I didn't have the same vision that I do now, basically.
Yeah.
We went on holidays, we did nice things, and we always had a good time, and there was no problem with that. But I wasn't there. Yeah, I wasn't there mentally. Physically, I was there. Mentally, I wasn't. We'd been on holiday in 19, and I was never at the races. People were talking and stuff, and my mind was just elsewhere. It just, I didn't listen. I didn't engage. I just wasn't happy in myself. My self-belief and self-confidence was just destroyed, basically. There's no real reason I can sort of put my finger on exactly why, but I just think it was a build-up of things over the years that things we've been through, as a family, things from the past. It just all caught up with me eventually. It's that typical stage of life for a 40-something bloke where you forget who you are, basically, and that's what happened to me.
Do you think there's an element of do you think there's an element of complacency in life? So often one of the things that we come up against with a lot of guys is like, you get the mortgage, you get the car, you have the kids, you get married, you've kind of got the 4.2, so to speak, right? And then suddenly you think, now what? Like, where do we go from here? What's there to achieve now?
Right, yeah, maybe. I mean, all that side of it, I was, from the outside in, it's like it's the perfect life sort of thing, and I was, that's all side of it. There's no problem with that at all. Really happy. My wife has always been my North Star. And then obviously my kids I love very much, but I think there was an element of complacency that we got to that stage, and I wasn't engaging enough. You know what I mean? I wasn't taking an interest in what was going on around me.
Do you think as the byproduct, when you look back now, and I don't know if you've ever discussed this with your wife, but do you feel like you weren't necessarily, so there's probably an element of doubt there, or a lack of leadership in terms of you leading yourself to lead them? Do you think that reflected in your actions, communication, in your connection with you and your kids? Was that broken?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was broken. I'll just say it wasn't connected as it should have been.
Okay.
I didn't do enough in my opinion, and when you basically, my wife, she's very, very good.
Yeah.
At that, and she's always been connected and always gets stuck in and doing things with them and everything else. Well, I'd just be sat on the sofa or having a lie in, you know what I mean, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's I'd come down from having a lie and stuff, and the kids would be either baking or they'd be doing something, you know what I mean. And I never had that go to do that, really. But so that's where the feeling of not being good enough came from, really. Is looking
How many times did you tell your wife, Pete?
I told her as soon as I felt I had the problem. It's just I didn't know how to fix it.
Okay.
I went to the doctor, obviously, and they gave me some tablets. I did some CBT and all that type of thing. And I found a local support group which helps just to talk about how I was feeling and everything else. But it all helped in a little way, but it still wasn't enough. It didn't take me to where I needed to be, and that's I was one of my main guilt is being on Facebook and burying my head into Facebook and being on my phone, and that is still probably my number one problem, but it's not like it was. You know what I mean? Then I just bury my head in my phone, and I'd be more interested in looking at my phone and talking to my wife. You know what I mean? And it's just wrong, and it wasn't until that side of things, that's what led me to yourself, you know what I mean? So I saw the advert, I saw your motivation for life and your, like the Rise to Thrive shows and everything else, and that just clicked. And then when I sort of, I kept listening for a little bit, and I said to Heather, this is what I'm going to do, and she was fully behind me. So I've signed up for the 5-day. And then it just went from there, and I just haven't looked back since. So, we led then it was the 0 to hero back then.
Yeah.
so we went into that, and you know, I had a few doubts about diving in, but then once I got through that, it was a no-brainer to carry on.
Yeah.
And
Pete, I just want to take you back to the Facebook thing. What were you looking for? What were you looking for on Facebook? So like when you're in there and you're consuming yourself in there, what's the mentality? Is it, do you think it's just a habit that it's like the default mode of like, I need engagement, or I need some form of entertainment, or my brain is addicted to needing to watch something, or and it can't rest in peace? Or are you looking for some magic pill, or looking for something to stand out in terms of like some form of self-help, some form of inspiration, some form of motivation? Like, can you pinpoint it?
Back then, it was just a case of, that's what took my mind off things. It was just that was just a habit. I buried my head in my phone, and when I was in my phone, I didn't think about how I was feeling or anything like that. So it was almost like a kind of help, but it wasn't a good way of helping me.
Yeah.
I mean, if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have come across you. So in that sense, that side of it obviously turned out well. But I was just burying my head in my phone, and it just disengaging from everything else. And it's like, you know, Heather sat by me talking to me, and I'm reading my phone, and she's just like, "Oh, you're not interested?" I was like, "Well," in my mindset then, that was the case. You know what I mean? It's just really selfish, really.
Okay. But it's good to be that aware, right? It's good that you understand that, because would you still be married today if you didn't square that away?
I think she'd have turfed me out, you know, because of how I was and that. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been like it is now, put it that way. So I think it would have still been,
right? Only tolerate so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? Once I got my head around the fact that I was good enough, you know, and I can push myself and achieve things, and I can lead the way, that changed things.
So what changed for you in your head to make you realized, or started to make you feel like you were good enough?
Ambition.
So where did that come from?
You. I think I'd always wanted to try running, and I'd heard that running is really good for your mental health. So at the same time as I joined you, I signed up for the Couch to 5K, and I did that over the 9 weeks while I was doing the Zero to Hero and everything else, and that really helped me. And then from that, it just flowed small gains each day, 1%, and then obviously once I've done that, I progressed to doing the 10K, and then that was like, that's my hobby now. I just clicked with it. It was one of those things that I just, like you with jiu-jitsu, I just clicked with it. And then obviously with the way we do things in the Brotherhood with the planning and our goals and yearly plans, that just got me going from there. And then obviously we had that Zoom call in the February of 2020, and I'm like, I'm going to run 10 miles by the end of the year, and then you just went, no, you're going to run the marathon, and my head exploded.
Yeah,
you know, and you dangled the carrot, and I think that's what I needed. I needed someone to say, you can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what you can achieve.
Yeah.
And from just the process of doing that, my outlook has completely changed.
It's a game changer, isn't it? So like, perspective for people, we had a group focus session, like in our Elite Brotherhood. We have these focus sessions, and people telling me that his next goal was to run 10 miles in October, and it was February, right? Which and one of the things that I guess is my role is to identify your limitations. So I told Pete to sign up for a marathon, and fair play to him, he did it by the end of the week. And then that, I think, that led on to a 50 miler, right? But we'll come to that later down the line. So one of the questions I wanted to ask, Pete, was when you went through this transition of feeling quite numb and hollow in life and being depressed and not showing up and leading yourself, to the place where you started to lead yourself, and you come through our 5-day system, and I think you come through the Zero to Hero system. what were some of the hardest parts when you were changing? What were some of the mindsets that you went through? What did you find difficult about going through that transition?
I think there was a lot of procrastination. So, like, because I've not done these things before, my glass, Heather always used to say to me, your glass is always half empty instead of half full. And I was always thinking of the negative first. I was very negative. Oh, I ain't doing that, or whatever it was, and things. And I think that process is I'd look at something and I think, oh, I'll do a marathon. You know what I mean? I've signed up for the marathon. It's like, if I hadn't met you, someone said, "Oh, you're going to do the marathon," I told them they're absolutely off their head.
Right.
So I think a lot of procrastination was there, which probably hindered me, and it still does a little bit today. Because even like with the planning side, I always struggled with like planning and actually what my goals are and what I want to do and things like that. And it's that sort of hindered me quite a lot as I was evolving. But the positivity from everything and everyone would always sort of pull you through. And the thing I didn't have was perspective. I didn't have perspective.
What's perspective changed for you then in that respect?
Just reality of life. It's not everything is as bad as it seems. So, you know, I don't know. So, say you crash your car, you know, I'm still alive. You know what I mean? That type of thing. It's like before, like the smallest thing, you know, you might have had an argument, or the kid's not doing as they're told or something. It's like, oh, God, and you get angry and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, actually, it's not the end of the world. You know, I've survived a car crash. I've walked away. I've got a roof above my head. Yeah. That type of thing. So when the little things
build that mindset, Pete.
A good 12 months at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say a good 12 months. Because even like obviously with the learning process of being in the brotherhood and everything, I think it was something from yourself again. It is just I was discussing problems and stuff, and it just cropped up. You said, well, perspective, and you know, I'm not homeless. I've got a roof above my head. You know, I'm healthy. Yeah. My kids and my wife are healthy, and you know, I've got a car. It's just simple things like that. I mean, literally, when I could lose my temper over something really, really silly. You know, like I don't know, like you trip over or something, and it's like, oh, you idiot, and blah blah blah. And I'd really punish myself. I think one of my biggest faults is I'm so hard on myself. I never give myself any forgiveness. The armor was always on.
Yeah.
Never left the armor at the door, and in that process, sort of my learnings is that I needed to take the armor off and let myself be vulnerable and let myself have those feelings. And the problem was, I think I'd hang on to those feelings and let them dominate me.
Okay. How does that change today? So like, let's take the last 6 months, for example, all of those things that you're talking about right now. How do you stop beating yourself up now? How do you stop allowing yourself to become emotionally overwhelmed or ambushed by everything that happens? And do you nail it 100% at the time, or is it just sometimes actually you nail it happens, we fall, but then actually you catch it and flip it?
Yeah, it's just, if you fall down, you get back up. You fail forward. You know, as we say, and I see failure as a good thing now. You know, if something doesn't work, you try something different and you experiment. And you know, that's how I've got around it. So if something doesn't go right that week, it's like, well, okay, I'll learn from it. I journal every day. I write it down. I process it, and it's gone. But the journaling really helps, because if like when I'm reviewing the week, reviewing the day of the week,
yeah,
just writing it down puts it into perspective. So and whereas before something that eats away at me for weeks, sometimes even months, I can normally process it. If it's serious, I can normally get it gone within a week, maybe a couple of days. Sometimes it just writing it down, just saying, right, you know, that day didn't go well because of X, Y, and Z. What can I do better? You know, and my routines as well. My routines, I allow myself to have flexibility in my routine. So, you know, if I can't run one day because I'm injured, doesn't mean I can't get on a bike or go for a walk.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's having that adaptability that's an overcome, basically.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot here, like I have done with the whole podcast.
Yeah.
If you were to look at 3 key factors that have helped Pete Hartles become the man he is today, What would those factors be? And why should people pay attention to those factors?
Self-awareness. Never had self-awareness before. So that's just realizing what you've got around you, and seeing the positives in everything, but being aware of how you're feeling, and it's okay to feel like that. I think you've got to have a North Star. You've got to have that shining light to aim at. Mine's my family, and it's a simple one, but it's true. And that's like really, really important to me. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it was always been important to me, but now it's like that's my pedestal. That's my, when I'm feeling that bit negative or down or whatever, it's just think about why do I do this? And it's just a bit, obviously to be the best version of myself for them.
It's almost like, just to put into perspective for people, North Star is the terminology that we use for long-term vision, right?
Yeah. And I think self-awareness and self-belief.
Okay.
My self-belief now is of such that I'm always looking to do something stupid next. You know what I mean? We've done the ultra. I've done the 3 peaks this year, and now I'm looking at next year. You know what I mean? So
what's happening next year, Pete?
Still looking. The London Marathon. I've balloted for the London Marathon. That's the big ambition. Part of the 10-year plan is the New York Marathon.
I've got one for you. I've got something for you. And I think you should be signing up for 100 miler.
I'm heading towards it. To be fair, I am looking at distance. I'm looking at an ultra. I'm just looking at where it fits and what it does. Whether it's 100 miles, I don't know. Definitely might have 100k in it though, but we'll see.
I definitely think you've got 100 miles in you, and I think it's once in a lifetime, once in a lifetime milestone where you go, man, I'm ready for this. I want to give this a shot. Before. Yeah. I don't think you're ever too old. Like my plan, I want to run 100 miler when I'm 50, and I kind of think to myself, like, you can do anything at any age. You just got to allow your mind to do that, right? You got to allow your mind to connect with it. And I personally think you should be pledging here in front of everybody listening that I'm going to do 100 miler and place the game. Because you know what, Pete? Like I started in training for my 50 miler, and it's not the outcome for me. It's not the medal. It's not crossing the finish. It's not none of that bullshit. What it does is presents a 7-month process, right? Where I go on my nice and high in terms of my showing up in my health, in how I look after myself, in my nutrition, my mindset, my hydration. But because that's raised, everything else raises with it. So like how I show up in my business, the decisions that we make, that self-belief, my mentality, my mindset, right? So it's not about being on a journey. You're going, right, fucking next year's 100 miler, next June. That's a 10-month journey where I escalate everything, right? So Pete Hartles has just agreed to do 100 miler live.
It'll have 100 in it, whether it's K or miles, but there'll be 100 something in it. So definitely.
Okay. So listen, to wrap up, thank you for your time here today. So to wrap up, if you were to, based on your experience and your journey and what you've gone through, if you were to give a man a piece of advice of where to start leading themselves, what would it be?
I think join yourself. I think get involved in our community. I think it's very. If you've got no direction and you don't know where to turn, you need someone to help you, and there's no harm in asking for help. So if you are struggling and you really don't know where to turn, just ask for help, and don't be afraid to do that, because there's so many people in that same position that those feelings, you're not on your own. So
I don't think people realise that. I don't think people realise how many people are in the same boat. Like, we've had over 10,000 guys register for our 5-day challenge in the last 4.5 years, and I can tell you that every single one of them's in the same boat. Like everyone that introduces themselves in those comments, you read through those comments and it's the same story. It's the same things going on. And like, I will leave everybody with one thing, and that is that nothing will change unless you make that step to change it. Like if you continue to go around in that same fucking cycle that you're going around in, that you're punishing yourself in, you know, that is self-sabotage to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I think Einstein once said, doing the same thing over and over is the epitome of like insanity. Isn't like, it's insane to keep doing the same thing, keep banging your head against the brick wall and not going around the wall and finding a way over the wall is absolutely what you're faced with. And when you come up against that wall, yes, like Pete said, absolutely brilliant. Go and speak to someone, speak to your wife about what you're going through, speak to your brother, speak to your dad, speak to your mother, speak to your friend. Find help, invest in yourself, do something that's going to make you get around that wall or teach you how to navigate yourself through all of this that's going on in life. Because there's lots of shit going on right now, you know, and one of the best things that I ever did was stop watching the news. It's been 6-7 weeks that I haven't watched the news. I didn't even know the Queen had died until my wife told me. And she likes to film it, like she is my new Sky app because she's fucking telling me everything. But there is a lots of shit out there, but there are certain things that we can control in our lives, right? We can control how we show up in the day. We can control how we lead ourselves. We can control the success that we have in our business or our career, right? We can dictate how we feel emotionally because we can do something about it. So there are lots of controllables in there, but you have to be willing to stop banging your head against a brick wall and do something about that. And I think that's really important to wrap up on there. And like, Pete, you're a great example of somebody that is constantly evolving and pursuing in your journey, evolving all of the time, evolving, evolving, and always pushing as well, you know. And I think you epitomize the saying that we're not done until we're dead, right? We never stop.
Absolutely.
Relentless, I think, is the word.
Well, I'm three marathons and an ultra to the good and the 3 Peaks challenge. So it's, I'm not going to stop there. So
good man, Pete. I appreciate you being on. We'll catch up after. Thanks for listening, guys. If you did listen, please make sure you leave a comment on the podcast or on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. Let us know what you thought of this. It's great to get people's thoughts, and we'll be bringing you more stories over the coming weeks and months.